Hey guys, what is up? It is No Help and welcome back to another video today. So today we're going to be checking out Poll 82, the minigame makeover, and it came out today, July 15th, 2024. Everybody loves a good minigame, whether they're for fun, a training method, or somewhere in the middle. Nothing beats enjoying a minigame with your fellow scapers. It's tough to improve on this winning formula, but our latest quality of life poll details some proposals that aim to do just that. Wintertodt. So, we'll start off at the Pyromancer's stronghold. The Wintertodd's frozen prison is a second home for most of you, since the way damage is calculated means that it is currently optimal to try and knock all your fire making XP out here while you still have 10 minus 17 HP. This massive advantage means that early stages of new adventure can turn into a real grind and feel far too restrictive. 100% I would say for Ironman accounts, most of them just stick right to Wintertodt, maybe even mains, but I would say more so for Ironman. This change we're presenting today aim to make Wintertodt feel like a fun activity at every stage of account progression and less like something to get out of the way early. I really like that because I feel like a lot of people that want to start an Ironman account are like, yeah, but I have to do Wintertodt. So they're talking about the warmth meter. Our first change replaces your hit points with a warmth meter, which serves as an alternative resource for Wintertodt to damage and for you to upkeep. So far, what I've read, I like. With the addition of the warmth meter, the Wintertodt will damage your warmth instead of your HP. For example, if you're wearing warm clothing and you have 3 or more braziers lit, you'd suffer 6 to 12% warmth reduction from the Wintertodd's regular tax. It's equivalent to 0.6 to 1.2 damage for a character with 10 hit points under the current system. This lets us standardize the experience for all players of all hit point levels, while also giving us greater granularity, whatever that means, allowing us to make fire making levels more impactful at more regular intervals. I really do like this because, like I was basically saying, like at the very start of your account, if you do an Ironman anyways, you almost feel like you have to do Wintertodt before even questing or before really even getting into the game. And it really holds a lot of people back from starting an Ironman, because if they start and they do a bunch of quests, they're like, I can't go to Wintertodt now, you know what I mean? To keep warmth and stop the cold from seeping farther into your bones, you'll have two options available: food and rejuvenation potions. If a bite of food provides 4 HP or more, that bite will restore 35% warmth. This also applies to potion doses like the Ceridome and Brew. This allows players of all hit point levels to use something like cakes as their food source, rather than having to switch to vastly more expensive food items at higher levels. Meanwhile, we're also enabling players to use rejuvenation potions they'd normally only use for healing the Pyromancers. You have been healing the Pyromancers, haven't you? I didn't even know. By converting them into 4-dose potions where each dose restores 30% warmth, we'll give them greater utility within the minigame and hopefully encourage you layabouts to give those poor Pyromancers a sip if they need it. To further encourage players to engage with this mechanic, we'll add some sprouting roots to the lobby and allow you to brew rejuvenation potions between games. That is really cool, to be completely honest with you. I haven't done Wintertodt in a very long time, but I don't ever really remember using these, so yeah. You'll want to do everything you can to keep your warmth topped up, since fully depleting your warmth meter will result in death. Sorry, hardcore Ironmans, you're still not safe here. Eyes on screen. I was thinking, actually, like I was literally just thinking, will this maybe make hardcores come here more? I guess not. Maybe if it's easier, I really don't know. Since these potions would have a left click drink option, if these changes if this change goes through, we'd look to add a left click heal option to any wounded pyromancers to save you having to right click the potion every time. Awesome. Other Wintertodt changes, the idea of being able to sustain yourself without having to bank sounds appealing on paper, but what are you going to do with all the supply crates filling up your inventory? We'd like to give Wintertodt rewards a Temperos style makeover rather than obtaining supply crates after every game. We'd like to make a massive pile of crates that pyromancers will graciously let you pull from. This doesn't change the amount of rewards you actually obtain. 13,500 points will still score you 28 loot rolls. We're just optimizing how crates are stored so you can clear up your bank and still do a grand opening whenever you'd like. I really do like this because, I mean, it's cool to get a reward crate every time, but then you have to bank, you grab food. It kind of made sense with Wintertodt, but now that we have things like Temperos, you might as well just make it like this system where you can store a bunch at once, save bank space. It just makes sense. On the topic of rewards, we'd also like to improve the Torch to the offhand slot, allowing players to equip the torch and the axe at the same time. Not only does this feel more natural, it also frees up another inventory spot. Lastly, we'd like to add a short invincibility window between the Wintertodt normal attacks so that players are guaranteed to get at least one fletching action in before interrupted again. This question remains, why fletch? Exactly, right? But at least you'll be able to fletch in the first place. Yeah, every single one of these changes 100% agree with. Alright, so next looks like it is the Guardians of the Rift. So Guardians of the Rift, GOTR for short, has been with us for some time now and serves faithfully as everyone's favorite runecrafting minigame. Admittedly, it's the only runecrafting minigame, but there's no denying that it boosted runecrafting up the favorite skills ladder. I always liked runecrafting, but I understand. That said, it's not entirely without issues. For example, Guardians of the Rift tends to be tackled in mass on specific worlds, which can lead to games ending prematurely when players do the bare minimum required to get XP drop before standing AFK and watching the world burn. I don't really know if they're exactly doing that, but yeah, they like to AFK for sure. To fix this, we want to change how Guardians of the Rift scales in an effort to reduce the impact of people who aren't actually contributing to the total score. Scaling and player caps. If this change were to be instituted, when a game has more than 20 players, every player beyond the 20th would result in 20% scaling penalty. This assumption is that not every player will contribute fully to the game. For example, 100 players in a game after this change would scale components like a number of abyssal creatures to 84% of the current behavior. The first 20 players give 1% each, but the last 80 players give 0.8%, totaling 84%. If the game starts with fewer than 100 players present, the game will remain locked after starting. This prevents stranglers from joining a small team Guardians of the Rift run while it's in progress. If a game starts with more than 100 players present, players can enter and leave the game at will, rather than accidentally clicking on the barrier at the start of the game and having to wait over 10 minutes before they can get into another one. Yeah, that's very, very frustrating. Additionally, the Great Guardian will dynamically recalculate the amount of charges it currently has and how much more charging it requires whenever a player enters or leaves the minigame, so you shouldn't even notice things changing around. By assuming some players will not contribute, we should be able to reduce the impact and see fewer games ending early as a result. Additionally, it will become much easier to get into a game on dedicated worlds even if you miss the start by a few ticks. I really like this because it is very frustrating when you are trying to just get games done and you see a bunch of players on the side AFKing. They deposit one thing and then they just sit in AFK, and then you lose the game because of these players. So I'm for it. Cells, barriers, and guardians. Outside of how the minigame scales, we've got some changes to how you use your cells to fortify barriers or create guardians. Currently, you can use your cells, ideally charged by a higher tier runecrafting altar, to build elemental and catalytic guardians, up to the cap of 10 in mass worlds, or charge the barriers surrounding the Great Guardian. To charge a barrier, you either need a high tier cell, or for the barrier to have taken some damage beforehand. This leads to either waiting around and hoping you're the first to use your cell, or simply not using them in the first place. The following changes incentivize players to make use of their cells. To begin with, will allow players to build barriers and guardians in between games. This activity doesn't award XP, and is primarily intended for players to give themselves some extra leeway in the early stages of the game. This would only let you make weak or tier 1 guardians / barriers using the cells on the table. We still wipe your inventory at the end of the game, but allow you to build these during the game startup without losing out on precious time spent mining the guardian fragments. Players will now receive XP and catalytic or elemental energy regardless of whether the barrier was at full HP, meaning you won't have to wait for a shield to have taken damage before able to get XP from your cell. I like this because another reason why a lot of the games fail is because you have no barriers or guardians, you know what I mean? Players can receive up to 2,500 runecrafting XP and 450 energy per game when using cells to strengthen barriers, recharge barriers, or create guardians. The cap still rewards players for using their cells, but is low enough that they're encouraged to keep actively runecrafting rather than running cells the whole time. We'll be keeping a close eye on these caps and might look to reduce it if it feels it's encouraging unhealthy gameplay patterns. I'm sure some players will figure out some weird shit to make it like more efficient or something. We still want to see players actually crafting runes. Of course, that's the whole point of the minigame. Our next change swaps the cost of repairing barriers from 10 Guardian Essence to 12 Guardian Fragments. This simply makes it easier to repair barriers while also keeping the focus on crafting runes from Essence instead of using it on other parts of the minigame. I really like this last part here because the fragments are stackable and the Essence aren't, and you have to spend time crafting them, and essentially they want you to just spend more time rune crafting, you know what I mean? Rewards. First, we'd like to add a big search. It's a working title option to the rewards guardian so that you can spend 5 points at once. This isn't exactly a game changer, but will help you make a quicker dent in your point stockpiles. It'll allow us to future-proof the minigame for temporary game modes like leagues, where we might offer more points per game theoretically. I like that. Why not? If you'd like to put big search to the test, but don't have loads of points, you might like the option to trade in 25 abyssal pearls for an extra search from the reward guardian. No, this is effectively a bonus roll for everyone who's got their remnants of the eye already, or so if you want to just waste your pearls, I guess. Our final proposal gives the colossal pouch a use for players before they hit 85 rune crafting. While you still need to hit the level requirement for it to be a proper upgrade, we'd like to let players fortunate enough to snag an abyssal needle to get some use out of it. To do so, we'd effectively scale the quantity of essence the pouch can store depending on which other pouches you already use. This ultimately means a little less clicking while you're on the way to 85 rune crafting, but the colossal pouch still requires 56 crafting and a small, medium, large, and giant pouch to create. Here's how much extra essence we think you should get, or we think you'd get. So basically it'll just give you more essence before you hit that level 85. I mean, it does kind of make sense, and I do like it. So like it's gonna, like, this is the current, like, right now. So basically, like, from 75 onwards, you can store more than you would have been before you actually hit the requirement to get the colossal pouch. So you can take a look at this. Obviously, I do like this idea, especially for low level accounts, because you're using the colossal pouch in the minigame to gain rune crafting experience. And if you build it right, for example, you have all the requirements, all the other pouches, you might as well let it store a little bit until you can actually basically get the full requirements to what it can actually hold. This number comes from taking the number of essence the pouches can store, then subtracting the number of inventory spaces the pouches take up. For example, a small, medium, and large pouch can store 18 total essence, but take up 3 inventory slots, resulting in an extra 15 essence. Awesome. I really do like this. Oh, here we go. Settled's favorite minigame, temple trekking. So first of all, they removed the infamous bog section and increased the quantity of Nile beast nails dropped by Nile beasts. Ugh, the bog section. This area takes significantly longer to traverse than others when completed as intended, so many temple trekkers have resorted to using third-party plugins to trivialize it. Jesus, I can't pronounce that right now. This section is so universally disliked that we feel the best course of action is to remove it altogether. We plan to replace future bogs with zombie lumberjacks, which has the added side effect of making it easier to obtain the lumberjack outfit. Awesome. Yeah, I really do like that, because fuck the bog. Moving on, we have what might be the loudest NPC in the game, Nile beasts. These noisy creatures are an uncommon sight when trekking, so Wagger, most of you are unfamiliar with their signature drop, Nile beast nails. These nails are used in the creation of sandfuse serums, which means they're particularly valuable. Since it's a rare drop to even encounter the Nile beast in the first place, we've proposed increasing the amount of Nile beast's nails they drop. This makes it a bit more viable to make your own sandfuse serums. Have fun gathering your own snakeweed. While we're here, should we make them a little quieter? Yes. I mean, everyone plays with sounds off, right? Mahogany homes. So, unpolled, remove the delay from tea drinking dialogue after finishing a contract. If they pulled this, that would kind of make me sad, because that was just fucking annoying. Moved Amy's saw to an offhand equipment slot. Awesome. I didn't even realize it was on hand. I guess so, right? But offhand, awesome. Removed the furniture selection interface from contracts. If you've already have the necessary supply. Oh my god, this just made the XP so much better. I'm gonna have to do another hour of this. And obviously, with the saw going offhand, I guess people can use the other hammer as an on-hand type thing, so you can have them both at once. Oh my god, this just increased the XP by quite a bit. We think the first 2 points here speak for themselves, so we'll move on to the third. The furniture selection interface is a core element of traditional construction training. In Mahogany homes, though, you've only ever had one option to choose from. Exactly. If you're doing teak. If you're doing mahogany. So we could save everyone's time by assuming that's the option you'll pick and foregoing the traditional interface. Fuck yes. Oh my god, this might just make construct mahogany homes better than traditional training. I probably will. Last man standing. Add the Perilous Moon's armor sets to the 75 defense bracket loot table. Unpolled, increase the speed at which fog spreads during the game. New stuff. We're always keen to mix up PvP minigames, and adding the Perilous Moon's armor sets to Last Man Standing seems like a no-brainer. If there are other items you'd like to find in chests, let us know and we'll make it happen. Interesting. I mean, I haven't really done too much of this minigame, but it might be cool to check out in the near future. Increasing the fog speed will stop bad actors from dragging games out by hiding in the far reaches of the map, while the legitimate players kill each other off. They'll be forced to move in more quickly, where they'll cross paths with real players and hopefully perish before they can earn as many points. The added benefit is that it will take less time for players to get into games they're actually trying to win. So there was a video, I think a friend made a video on it, where basically you could just like AFK this and you would get so many points. So yeah, I think the increasing fog is definitely going to help out a lot, and obviously adding the new armor is cool as well. Everything else. Adjust the Soul Wars mapping so that the blue side avatar cannot be safe spotted by the red team's players. Give players more pieces of 8 for actively making rum inside Trouble Brewing. Allowing bounty hunter rewards to be used in PvP mini-games. Add a quick start option to Temperus for players looking to jump back into solo kills. Rounding us off are 4 changes that don't fall into a neat little segment. Pesky buggers. The first change here is about making the game more fair. Currently, it's possible for red players to safe spot the blue team's avatar, which means they don't need to use protection from melee and gain an advantage in subsequent scuffles. We'll adjust the map to give players an even playing field. Job done. I mean, that should have been a no-brainer. Back in May, we made some changes to Trouble Brewing that actually incentivized players to do some brewing, and turned pieces of 8 into a variable we store on your character rather than a physical item. We'd like to go one step farther and consider offering more pieces of 8 for each bottle of rum you brew in the minigame. Currently, you're awarded 2 pieces of 8 per bottle, which doesn't do too much to encourage a would-be collection logger to actively participate when they could just AFK and not miss much. We're looking to increase this value to 10 pieces of 8 per bottle brewed. This means you can still just AFK if you're looking for some laid-back collection logging, with the option to speed things up by actively participating. I always think this should be an option for anything in the game. If you are actively participating, you should be getting more than somebody who is simply just AFK. Bounty Hunter has a whole lot of PvP oriented rewards restricted to Bounty Hunter itself. We'd love to give players the option to put them to use inside the likes of Clan Wars, Soul Wars, and Castle Wars to give communities actively running games in these areas a few more setups to experiment with. Cool. Last on the list is to change Temperus. While most players opt to take Temperus down in mass, appropriately themed worlds, some brave souls are out there doing it solo. This means it is incredibly deterministic and generally offers more permits per hour. Accordingly, the best way to move from one kill to the next is to use an alt account to start the countdown timer on another world. We'd rather people weren't doing this, so instead we'd like to add a quick start option that would let solo players throw themselves right back into Temperus instance without waiting around, fletching jar-shaped helmets not included. Yeah, I know they're not always a huge fan of people using alt accounts, and sometimes they kind of have to get ahead, but if they can prevent it, why not? But wait, there's Varlamore. Ha, good job. This last change isn't related to minigames at all, but we want to run it past you all before our next Varlamore update. If you've taken on a few sepulcher in whatever, you may have scored a set of Sulliper blades. The next part of Varlamore will introduce Ice Naga, so we'd like to run a crush focused alternative past you. The glacial tumult, are a pair of double hitting tier 55 crush weapons whose stats otherwise mirror a the blades basically. So this is going to be a new weapon, I guess. The double hitting nature of these weapons makes them particularly strong against the Naga, who use a flat armor system different from the typical NPC defenses. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these off-theme beauties. So of course, I think it's cool that they added this new dual kind of wielding type shit, EOC type shit, but it made it okay because they added an old school theme and didn't add a combat bar. I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, honestly, solid updates today. I really hope a lot of these do come into game, and especially like things like mini games are so like underlooked a lot of the time because they kind of put a mini game out and then it kind of just stays the same for a very long time. And I love to see them making changes to like Wintertodt and Temperus, and even the Mahogany Homes changes, for example, are just freaking crazy and will really boost the experience of people actually doing the methods per hour, and the quality of life is just phenomenal. And some of these little small updates like quality of life to minigames can actually be some of the best updates that we get without really adding much to the game, just making them easier, better to do, and therefore we'll get more players to do them. Like for example, like trouble brewing, you know, like who the fuck does that? But it might encourage more people to go do that now. And yeah, these are some of my favorite updates, the most simple ones that just make the game better and have a lot more quality of life to them. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Sorry it's been a couple of days since I've made a video, but I've been dealing with some stuff in real life, and I will probably be making a video talking about it. Yeah, I had a very close friend pass away, so it's been a tough couple of days, but thank you guys so much for watching. I will catch you in the next one. See ya later.